reality is that it's a lot harder to get there than people realize. I mean, you can be passionate about it, but the reality is, if you think of the last couple years, the changes that we've seen, I mean, even the last 12 months, with AI and the growth of data center, like this future state of all electric, 100% renewable, just is lengthening, right? It's getting longer and longer. So what are we going to do?
Welcome to Leaders on a Mission, where we dive into the stories of visionary leaders tackling the planet's most pressing challenges. I'm your host, Simon Leach, and today I'm really pumped to be joined by Shane Johnson, CEO and co-founder of CarbonQuest. Now, CarbonQuest, they're a company revolutionizing, I suppose, decarbonization in urban environments. Really interesting, right? Through, I suppose it's really innovative carbon capture technology, but I think the thing that I remember reading about and seeing, it was really hard to abate sectors, like kind of buildings and real kind of urban areas. We're going to chat about, I suppose, the scale-up journey and the opportunities for decarbonization, and also we'll delve into Shane's journey as a co-founder and CEO. So fantastic, Shane, that you come on the show. I really appreciate your time and look forward to diving straight in.
Yeah, Simon, I'm super excited to be a part of this. I think leaders on a mission is so important these days, and what we're about at CarbonQuest is really all about delivering on this vision, but the mission aspect of it is so important to decarbonizing our future and helping address these hard-to-abate segments you hinted at.
Yeah. But tell me though, where did it all? When you think about you had a real background spanning leadership and across various kind of industries. I suppose just give me some context in terms of, I don't know, a couple of key moments or experiences that led to you founding kind of CarbonQuest, as it were.
Yeah, sure. I've been an entrepreneur for over 30 years. I turned 55 this year, so just had my first senior citizen discount. Talk about a weird milestone in life. And I would say
same as me, by the way, same as me. 55 this year as well, nice. Man. Yeah.
Nice. The older you get, the more mission becomes important, right? There's a legacy aspect, but my professional career started this journey, but I think back even, as a boy, back in those days, they had things called papers. You had your paper routes. You rode your bike around and delivered these goods. And I was always thinking about innovation. In fact, one of my stories was that I hated to tie my shoes. And I don't know, every kid has these things. So I ran around everywhere with my shoes untied, and I got in trouble for that all the time. But my first innovation I can think of was I created this idea about bungee cord shoelaces. So you could slip on your shoes and not have to have shoelaces. And I fell for a patent thing on TV and filed my first patent. I was going to make a millionaire selling this idea to Nike, right? So today I have multiple shoes without, shoelaces. They're elastic shoelaces.
How old were you when you did that, though, when you filed your first patent?
Oh, about 12 years old. Yeah. I've always kind of had canny ability to see what I think is the future state, and invest in that. So that's been my journey. I saw a future, when I first came out as a career as a young engineer, got involved in some telecom work and saw a future of a kind of a broadband internet. In those days, it was like, how do you people didn't really understand how you do voice and video and everything over the internet. But I kind of saw that future and worked for utility, and we created the world's first open access gigabit, or that time optical Ethernet network, to the home and business, and launched that as a subsidiary of utility. That led to a startup in where I moved to Spokane called Worldwide Packets, and it was a gigabit optical Ethernet company that was all about delivering even bigger pipes to homes and businesses. So when I was there, I installed literally the world's first gigabit Ethernet switch, at a facility. So that's kind of been my journey. Same thing after that. We did a battery energy storage company startup. This was early days, like 2008. and installed the first, what I thought of as the world's first battery energy storage system at a site. And that kind of, all those journeys in your life, kind of lead to where you're at today. So that's been my journey, and CarbonQuest is really continuation of that. So we saw this opportunity, really to think about like what is next in this distributed asset class, and how can we make big impact, because I'm kind of in that phase of my life, like the legacy side, and then build a great business. So we saw this opportunity to create a new technology on a distributed basis. So that means like on-site at the premise, a carbon capture technology that would help these hard-to-abate segments decarbonize.
Yeah.
The journey started on a whiteboard. We literally started looking at ideas, how we could solve this problem, where the biggest problem was in that space, and that's where it came up. Like natural gas represents the biggest portion of emissions in the U.S. It's a huge opportunity. If we could solve that, we'd be onto something big. And so that's what we did. We literally whiteboarded a technology solution, and that whiteboard really still stands today. Our original vision and original idea is what we're doing today in a lot of aspects.
Yeah, amazing. Tell us a little bit more about the kind of challenge and the problem that it's solving as it relates to, maybe the scale of some of the kind of emissions, as it were.
Yeah, in the built environment, we think about there's all these facilities or pieces of infrastructure that have emissions. Of course, emissions comes from two places: either electricity consumptions and the carbon intensity of that electricity, or in places like U.S. where you got really around the world, but heavy fossil fuel usage in northern climates, especially, a big portion of that comes from combusting of natural gas. So, in cities around the world where that is a key source of the energy equation, roughly 70% of the 60 to 80%, but in the middle of that 70% of emissions comes from natural gas. So that's, heating, hot water, cogeneration, or, industrial applications. It's processed steam for, building something or manufacturing something. And so that's the space that, we're really trying to solve is, and it's very tangible, right? Because, these are like, if you look at this infrastructure, there's a stack, on emissions. You can't see CO2, right? But the volume of CO2 emissions, and these are direct emissions that are going out that facility, are significant. So we said, look, if we can build this piece of equipment that goes on site and we draw on that source of emissions and we scrub out the CO2 before it goes in the atmosphere, we can really help create a significant impact. We believe we can do it very economically, viable, right? Economic gravity drives everything, and we can help these customers reduce their carbon emissions in a big way. So that's the problem statement. That's really what our technology is about solving.
Got it. Yeah. And where did you meet your co-founders then? And where did that come from?
Yeah, in life, you build relationships over time, and I've been fortunate. I've been at this for a while, carry all the scars of that. But one of the good things of that is building the relationships with like-minded folks that have got a similar, outlook on life, kind of got the similar character that it takes to be involved in this startup world. And so I met a number of those folks along the way. So those are co-founders that I previously built companies with that I met along the way. And one of my mentors is one of my co-founders. He's a gentleman that's been doing this for even longer than me. But I met him at my first startup when I came to Spokane, and we've been doing this for 30 years together. So
awesome. So you're just kind of recycling different ideas and solutions, but with the same people.
Yeah, I mean, you build on something and you get a little bit of success, and you can kind of see. We say see around corners, right? But you can see how this is going to play out. Canada, they say see where the puck is going. But, you kind of develop that kind of a vision. And if you have the right set of people around you, they're like-minded, you can help bring that to fruition. Because true innovation is creating something from nothing, right? So you got to have the right team, the right leaders that you're surrounding yourself with to be able to execute on that.
Yeah, got it. So tell us a little bit about that journey. When you think about the whiteboard and the idea about some of this distributed kind of on-scale solution to reduce carbon, like then building it, well, give us some context in terms of, what the solution kind of looks like and what you've done to get yourself to where you are today with it?
Yeah. So we started this business literally right before COVID. So, it's an interesting time. You think about what's happened in the last, 5-ish years, but we took that idea and we said, look, we need to go build a prototype. So we had some ideas about how we do that, but we had to go to the market and source some equipment and talk people into doing something different with what they were doing, and then, sell us something. And so we ended up building a prototype, and we partnered with a fabrication company. We rented a little roll-up door, it's kind of a classic roll-up door space, a lab space, and built our first system there and proved out our idea, in the lab. And, in those days, it was just a handful of people. Every day I came to work with blue jeans, and a t-shirt, and it was literally turning wrenches and programming, whatever it would take, to build this thing. And at the moment we felt, look, we're onto something. We have something to, that we can deploy. We had in the background been working with a customer in New York, and this customer was a previous customer of ours from the previous company. So we were very fortunate that we'd done good work for this customer, and we'd been socializing this idea. They were in New York. They had very aggressive climate policies and had a large building stock, portfolio of buildings. And so we said, look, this is something that we think can help you reduce your emissions and become compliant with the programs we're putting in place. And so we sold our first system. And, that's always one of the hardest things to do. But we were very fortunate because of this relationship that we had. And so we deployed the first system, and that we think is the world's first in building on-site carbon capture, distributed carbon capture system. And so that allowed us then to field prove the system, and that was it was about 3 years into the journey, and 2 years later we sold. We built another 4 systems that we've shipped, and we sold another half a dozen. So we're just now beginning to scale up that commercial side of the business. And so we're just excited about the progress we've made. It's building hardware intensive. This is big capital. Breaking trail in a new industry is really hard, but we've been able to consistently show the proof points, to kind of get us to the point where we're able to now break out.
I just get I'm picturing you with your wrenches and equipment and just really loving life there, building something, and like it's engineering, right? It's just like the fun part of
the world was shut down with COVID, and it's almost like we had no idea. We were literally just show up every, it was a small team, it was a safe environment, but we just did our thing, protected ourselves, and heads down, and made really, you think about it, so made something special out of the dark times of COVID. We kind of came up and brought to life this new system, this new idea. So for us, it was it was a special time. As hard as it was, it was kind of the goodness that came out of it, right?
Yeah. It's funny, you look back, it's probably the good old days, really, isn't it?
When you don't have a lot of the other complexities, right? You're just trying to almost single-mindedly do something. It has all these nuances, right? That you're overcoming challenges every day, but it's different. It's simpler. And success is, there's a lot of high-fiving when we made our first CO2. It was after a year of hard work, or a year and a half of hard work. It was special. It was a really special time.
Tell me, what's the key to from a technology viewpoint, as it were? Like how does it work? And is there a specific, maybe just talk, at a high level about the technology you use to deploy to create the solution, as it were?
Since we have been deploying in the, kind of the distributed energy space for a while, over 10 years of experience, we knew, we kind of knew the problem statement, we knew the environment, so we knew the requirements that you'd have to do, to be successful in that space. Right, like we literally broken trail with the AHJs on a new technology in New York City. So, like carrying those scars, that's knowledge, right? That you bring to market. But what it allowed us to do was to develop a fundamental technology that we knew would be successful in that space. So think of it as like we knew what the product requirements needed to be, and so we started with kind of that in mind. Like when you start with the whiteboard in that mind, you build a technology approach that you know is going to fit that space. So it's got to be fundamentally safe. It's got to be modular and flexible, space efficient, right? It only uses electricity. Like there's some of these fundamental premises that we wanted to do. So we built a technology set. It's a set of equipment. I think it was like modular skids that go on site, and they can be flexibly located, in the environment, and they attach to the side of the pipe, to the exhaust pipe that's going out the building, call it the breeching or the chimney, and we essentially draw in that flue gas. And the thing about what we're doing with point source carbon capture versus direct air carbon capture is we're starting with high CO2 concentration. So the other thing that we knew from the very beginning is that economic gravity drives everything. Like we've fought the battle of like trying to figure out how to make battery energy storage make the economics work, make the system get a payback. So we're like, that has to be from the very premise. And so, we even considered direct air capture, but we couldn't figure out how in the world are we ever going to make it economically viable, right? So starting with high CO2 concentration, 100,000 parts per million versus say 400 and change, right? You can kind of see there's a common sense aspect, there's a pathway to make this work. So we developed this tech. What it does is it draws in the mixed gas. It's CO2, it's oxygen, nitrogen, and a few other small things. And it's water, so water vapor. We drop out the water vapor. We present that to this separation technology that uses a solid material. It's called an adsorbent. And what it does at the molecular level, it has like pores and capacity that's designed just for CO2. And so you pass this mixed gas through these vessels under pressure, and it gobbles up all the CO2. And then everything, that's not CO2 escapes out the other end. The technology, then we swing the pressure, so it's called pressure swing. We actually swing it to a vacuum. And we do that, we draw out the CO2 in a gas form. And so it just runs continuously through these, sets of pressure, pressurizing, feeding, depressurizing, pulling gas on through the vessels of the safe solid adsorbent. And then we get, pure stream of CO2. The waste gas is basically oxygen and nitrogen, goes back to the stack and out. So what we've basically done is avoid those CO2 emissions from going in the atmosphere. And then we can liquefy it, or we if there's an industrial process, can use the gas. We can keep in a gas form. If there's sequestration or pipeline, of course it's can go right onto those. But the market today, mostly we have to convert it to a liquid form. That's the same form the industrial gas companies use today. And then we can put it back into the marketplace to create a beneficial application or use or material that can sequester that CO2 away or beneficially use it in something like an e-fuel or sustainable aviation fuel.
Yeah, love it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Tell me, with where we are today in 2025 and the creation of this technology, was it dependent on, like the innovation? It sounds like the absorbent was in terms of the creation of that. Could you have done this 10 years ago, for instance? Was the technology around for you to do this, or has it had to evolve in time? And was it technology readiness, as it were?
Yeah, people have been at carbon capture, on a scale basis for a while. Most of those companies have taken a different approach, and I don't want to be too techy, but they use an amine solvent approach. In our space specifically, we just did not feel like that could work. So our innovation really was around taking a different technology approach to solve a similar problem set. You can't have very large towers if you're buying a commercial building or in an urban dense location, right? That's what those systems take. They work good in a big industrial plant, power plant.
Right.
This has got to be space efficient, compact.
Yeah.
It's got to be like an HVAC system, right?
Yeah.
It's just got to be behind the scenes and just doing its thing, operate autonomously and continuously, lights out. So that's what we built our system to do, and the solid adsorbents are a big piece of that. But what we did is we said, look, we got to find the right material. We got to match it with the unique processes. And, our whole innovation really is like from the design to the process to the material to make it really economically viable. And then part of our secret sauce, frankly, is like finding the way to crack the code on the economics, find the markets and the segments and the way to stitch this together, all of that whole thing, right, to make this work in the market. And that's kind of what we've done historically and with this company.
Awesome. No, that's really good. Thanks for explaining. You make something which is quite technical sound very palatable and easy to understand from a high level view. So I appreciate that. And I saw like the customer you mentioned. Did that have something to do with the 1930 Broadway project? That was your first.
That was what we think is the world's first system.
Right.
We call it the Grand Tier project. Yeah, 1930 Broadway.
Awesome. So that is, I'm right in thinking that is in New York City, right? Is that right? Or right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Midtown Manhattan, right in the center of the heart of New York.
Got it. Yeah. Amazing. So you talk about maybe thinking about a couple of things, right? So it's been some journey, right? I know you raised a Series A round of investment a few months ago, probably back in August, right? And you're at the point now, as you've said, of scaling the business, right? So, and building these distributed systems, yeah? Tell us a little bit about, your kind of plans for the future and, and your vision for the company, really.
There's so many nuances, but I mean, if you look forward state and what we're doing, there's really, two things we're trying to do, which is starts with the technology. We're trying to lower the levelized cost of carbon. We think of it as like levelized cost of energy, but we translate to everything on currency as carbon. So the lower dollars per ton that we can deliver, a solution set, the broader the market applicability, right? The more benefits that we can drive for a customer. So, we're on this journey. We're already kind of on our, what we call our revision 4.x series, or our fourth generation of the product set. We have a roadmap that will continue to innovate, drive that down, over time. The second thing we're doing is just trying to drive commercial traction. And one of the things that we've done is we worked hard to standardize a product set. That kind of goes back to how we levelize this, but it can be deployed, and we're creating kind of sub-segments of that for certain technology and applications, common architecture, but standard product set, so we can get, leverage buying power, repeatability, efficiency in manufacturing, everything that we do in our process. So all of that, those two things, the more commercial success we get, the lower, we can get our costs, the more commercial success we get. So that's really what we're trying to do. If you fast forward, we build, say, a half a dozen systems, right? We get another half a dozen sold that are in process. Say we're on this kind of journey of one a month, right? We got to get from one a month to one a week. So that's, 52 a year. Then we got to get to one a day. And then look, if we did 10 a day, on just business days, but just 10 a calendar year day, that's 3,600 systems a year. In the US alone, we've identified over 800,000 distributed endpoint opportunities that could use carbon capture. These are in the kind of the harder to abate segment. This isn't the easy to electrify stuff, right? These are harder abate segments. So, 10 a day is mind-boggling, right? I don't know if when we'll ever get there, but that's what we're trying to do, is build a real scalable business, a solid foundation that we can make a huge impact, right? And build a really interesting, business.
Yeah.
That's just, it's a future state.
Just on that journey of that standardization and what you're doing, what are the biggest challenges in like trying to achieve that broader goal? You've got a huge market kind of area to address here, right? And what are the biggest challenges in really achieving that from a manufacturing viewpoint?
We have all the classic challenges of scaling a business. I think reflect on the last 5 years, and one of the biggest challenges has been really the regulatory environment. The industry, as you look at a future state of what people think of as the ideal sustainable future, for our global society, is really based in 100% renewable generation and an all electric future, right? So there are many, and frankly, I underestimated this because just the way my mind works, this is like so common sense to me. But is if you're a carbon capture company, you're somewhat in the way of that future state. Like you risk that people can continue to use fossil fuels in a decarbonized way, and so you might make that a longer term horizon. I think the reality is that it's a lot harder to get there than people realize. I mean, you can be passionate about it, but the reality is, if you think of the last couple years, the changes that we've seen. I mean, even the last 12 months, with AI and the growth of data center, like this future state of all electric, 100% renewable, just is lengthening, right? It's getting longer and longer. So what are we going to do? We're just going to let all these emissions just continue, to wait on the perfect future state? No, don't let the enemy, be perfect, the enemy of good enough, right? And that's where we're like, this energy transition is so important because we can economically viable do it today. We should do as much of it as we possibly can. And so that's a lot of it's just education and messaging. We're seeing kind of, our sales are beginning to billow a little bit, from the, getting maybe from headwinds to kind of tailwinds. It's early days, but like, we just think it's such an important piece of the conversation while we work on this long-term, vision. It's so much more cost effective to avoid those emissions in the first place. Like the time value of carbon versus trying to remove it from the air 20, 30 years later. I mean, it's so obvious to me, but this is kind of what I think we need the message to be, because then we can get more support behind this kind of initiative and really go make a big impact. So I don't know if that's helpful, but like it's
very
a lot
helpful.
of our challenges are just education, trying to help people understand that this is viable, can be done today, it works, and it can be done economically in an economic means, right? That will really help drive the behavior, because incentives and regulations change. I mean, look what's happened to us right now. The more this that can be broadly economically viable, the more the market is going to adopt this technology. So, not every company, but most companies have a vision for a sustainable future. They want to address their direct emissions. So if we can do it in an economically viable way, they're going to the market force will naturally draw this as a powerful solution. Yeah. And that's what we're trying to do: drive those costs down. Communicate, create this is a great opportunity in the mix of everything else that can be done. This is the only tool, in the toolkit, but it's a key and important one. And then, we build on the foundation and we can scale it, day over day, right? In the trenches. And hopefully someday we wake up and there's, not tens, not hundreds, but thousands of these systems deployed worldwide. And we know we've accomplished what we set out to do.
Yeah, so I get that it's an education thing, and I get it's it's really driving that cost curve as well. I see that. Maybe thinking about commercial traction. What needs to happen. Like clearly, this 1930s Broadway project looks like a brilliant example, right? So maybe just outline the commercial benefits from your customer, for instance, in terms of not just sustainability kind of side, but how it all kind of marries up commercially, just at a high level, and just to get a sense of that, really.
Yeah. So one of the things that it's probably obvious, but it may not be, that this technology, the end of it delivers a commodity. I mean, there's literally a molecule. It's like grain. You can weigh and measure this. Like we could talk about tons. We literally talk about liquid tons of CO2, right? So like you can load on a truck and put it on a scale and say, yep, I have 3.6 tons right here. You know what I mean? So that commodity is worth something. So the challenge is like, how do we find, by the way, it's an existing commodity market, right? Industrial gas companies transact on this. It's a multi-billion-dollar market today. So we can deliver that into that market and that space. But it's also growing. There's almost every university in the world is looking for kind of a formula equation where we can go with CO2 to create something, and materials and composites and fuels and all this kind of stuff, right? So it's an existing and it's a growing and emerging market, which is the foundation. So look, we want to help customers monetize that CO2. So one of our business strategies is we help customers, we take title of that and we help them sell it. They don't want to sell CO2. They want to run their infrastructure. So we help them do that and we revenue share on that. So that's It's part of how they get a return on investment. If there's regulatory programs, either carrots or sticks, of course, if they've got their own, sustainability programs, like that becomes value that we stack with the CO2 sale.
Yeah.
Like in New York, they have what they call Local Law 97. In Washington State, they have the Climate Commitment Act. They have all these different programs where they're basically incentivizing customers to lower their carbon emissions. So if they're above those limits, our technology brings them into compliance and there's value. We help extract that value. And what we do is, this capital asset, it's a return on investment. Over time, what we're trying to do is make that so attractive that we can bring in outside capital. So what we've done is we've now developed a partnership with a development company that is financing our systems. So you think of this, these concepts like as a service. It used to be energy as a service. So now we've launched, carbon capture as a service, as an offering to help remove the barrier. If the customer doesn't have the capital, we can bring the capital through a third-party partner.
Got it.
So it's kind of it's a nuance, but it's one of those things that we're helping to scale the business through not only innovative technology, but innovative financing models and structures that remove the barriers for customers to adopt.
Yeah, completely new business models and go-to-market kind of strategies. Really, it sounds really exciting.
Yeah.
Around that, and no, that's awesome. No, I love that, just like thinking about some other things. How many people work at the company now?
We're about 35 now.
Okay, wow, it's amazing what you can do with 35 people, isn't it?
Yeah, we've tried to be as lean as we can all the way through, be as capital efficient. From an investor perspective, and it's tempting to get, the cart in front of the horse, as they say, but we just really try to work hard to make sure that we've got the right commercial proof points, on this journey product market fit, right, before we make those investments. But we've been fortunate to get a really talented team, and that team can do a lot with a little, and that's just, really a testament to the team. And hopefully we'll, as we continue to execute month over month, we're on a pathway and a plan to double that headcount, in the next 12 to 18 months. So it's in our hands. It's the team's hands to execute on that journey. If we are, that's what we'll try to do.
Awesome. Yeah. Just tell us a little bit about the culture as well. Like, how do you go around, in terms of you look at the people that you work with and what makes CarbonQuest a great place to work, for instance? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, a lot of it goes back, I think, to the message behind this podcast. As I developed my career, I just really began to understand the importance of a solid vision and mission, right? And that's the more impact oriented that can be, I think the more attractive it is, especially for the younger, generations that are coming in. But that's a key part of the foundation, and something that, frankly, it makes it. And it's hard to hire good people, but if you got a really good mission that people resonate with, it makes it a heck of a lot easier. And then what are you doing? You're bringing in like-minded people on the team. Now you don't want everyone to be the same, and that's another thing I think I've learned to really try to foster is that like this, bring in a diversity of people with, that are like-minded, you create something special out of that. It's like the collective power of all the different, thoughts and viewpoints and personalities, right, that can generate that. And then I would say we work really hard to build on a foundation of integrity that create a culture that, failure is okay. Like repeated failure is not okay, but if you're going to have a culture of innovation, people have to feel comfortable to take a risk and to put themselves out there and to try things, right? And to be communicative on that and collaborate around those ideas. And so that's, something we work hard to do, because then it's like, it's fail fast, right? Is what they say, but it's like learning quickly and continuously improving and constantly getting better. Those are kind of tenets to the culture that we're trying to build. Then look, you got this power of this entire team that's helping everyone innovate, and success is we all win together, you know what I mean? So That's something that's special. And if you, man, I've been a part of a few of those where that you get that equation just right, and it's so much fun, and that's hopefully we're able to repeat it. It feels like we are on a solid foundation. And if we can continue to build on that over the next 5 years, I mean, look, team is everything. I mean, truly is, but it's that culture and that like cohesion that you get from a high performing team that really is everything. So, I'm just very thankful that I feel like we have the right team to build on that. I'm so proud of every team member. I mean, like literally by name, and talk about what they're doing, the value that they're creating, for the shareholders in this business and for our customers, and it's just a really special place to be as a leader, So, anyways, that's hopefully that helps, define what we're about. It's really about us at CarbonQuest.
Yeah, no, sounds awesome. And no, listen, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing the journey, because it really has been a journey, both like, your broader career, but, what you've put together over the last kind of 5 years. And it's a really exciting technology with a tremendous kind of opportunity. And, I wish you all the best, for the coming journey. But really thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. It's my pleasure. It is a journey. We have this exciting mission, but every day is a set of new challenges, and we're just thankful to be a part of the solution set, to create a better future.
No, absolutely. And to all my listeners, thanks so much for tuning in today. And it's been a great chat with Shane. So look, check him out on LinkedIn and check out CarbonQuest. And don't be afraid to reach out, and we'll see you on the next show. Thanks for tuning in.